Megan, it says you're talking, but I can't hear you.
What? Is your volume up? Oh, why am I asking you? You can't hear me.
Oh, I know why. Gee, I wonder what I can't hear you. What's going on? I am not technically astute today.
My next question, I was like, is your volume up? And then I'm like, why am I chatting? Why am I talking? She can't hear me.
It just said up there, Megan is talking. And I'm like, oh, okay. I can hear her.
The thing I wasn't, you don't know, maybe I was like sharing like the secrets of the world and now you'll never know.
Ah, damn it.
Just kidding. I'm trying salted caramel.
Uh-huh.
The Rebel salted caramel. I haven't had it yet.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I like that one too. It's a little sweeter, but it's okay. It's not as sweet as the maple pecan.
That one was okay. It just had kind of a weird aftertaste.
All of them, I think, make my mouth taste like I need to brush my teeth.
They have a weird mouth feel.
Make my teeth fuzzy or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Irish one.
Have you said you'd had that, right?
Yeah, I had it that night. The last time we recorded, and then we went out to the bird when we came back to our house. I had one of these.
Yeah. Ooh, listen to that crack open. Nice crack. We went to the park yesterday with my son for the first time because, last summer he was like 6-7 months old, so he really didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Right.
So my parents came up yesterday and they surprised, like a surprise visit. So we went to the park and oh my God, he was having the time of his life.
Oh, good.
But he's so funny, like no stranger danger. So just walks up to everybody. Hi,
yep.
hi. We're like, nope, we can't. Like this woman was putting her like 6-month-old baby in the stroller. She's getting ready to leave. And the baby started crying and Jordan just walked right up to her. Hi. I'm like, nope, we don't, she doesn't need your help, buddy. Nope, she doesn't need it.
Aw, that's cute.
So, but I guess John was just like that when he was little. His mom says that he would just talk to everybody.
Oh,
which on the one hand, like I don't want, my son to have that fear and shyness. But on the other hand, like you gotta have a little fear. Like don't get in the van with the puppies because
exactly.
There's no candy, there's no puppies.
Yeah, exactly. I was very, very shy and scared. I didn't talk to anybody, even when they talked to me.
Mm-hmm.
I
have to show you my very 80s themed jewelry that I made. It's not quite done yet, but can you see this?
Oh yeah, it looks like it glows in the dark.
It's a very neon yellow. So this would be the necklace, and then I made some little earrings. But
oh, cute.
I'm working with UV resin, and which I'd never worked with before, and so I'm having some trouble curing it.
Oh,
so I asked my group on Facebook, and they said it could be the wattage, and so I ordered a 158 watt lamp from Amazon because I think the lamp that I have right now is like 20 watt or something, and so we'll see.
Oh, hopefully that'll work.
Yeah. So what's new with you?
What's new with me?
What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa.
We got to have music on our shows every time.
I know we do.
I'm trying to pull up all of the scripts and stuff like that. So let's see. Well, should we do this hello and welcome and all that before?
Oh,
and then we can start talking about all this other stuff.
I just got too excited.
No, that's okay. Now I can't find you. Where's my Zoom? There it is. Okay.
Amy, I'm right here.
Right here. Just keep talking. I'll find you. Yeah, I am discombobulated, but
it's okay.
We'll get it together.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we start and then we can go into our chit chats?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Activity Continues podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Amy.
And Heidi ho, everybody. I'm Megan.
We discuss episodes of the Travel Channel's TV show, The Dead Files. This week, we're changing things up a little bit. Since this is our 10th episode, which is a bit of a milestone, we're going to both be talking about the same episode. So I asked Megan for a number between 1 and 14, and then I asked her for another one between 1 and 9, and she gave me 6 and 8.
Yep. So what we're doing is we're recapping season 6, episode 8, titled You Will Be Mine, which originally aired May 20th, 2016, which is my grandma's birthday, May 20th, although she was born in 1920 and not 2016.
Right.
But first we have some
would be
things.
Really difficult.
I know that would be but first we have some things we want to discuss. So first of all, we want to remind everybody to listen to Haunted or Hoax, which is a podcast that we've kind of partnered with. And so they've sent us some information on them, and we've sent them some information on us, and they're really, really good podcast. I really like them. They, like Amy and I have talked about, they kind of remind us of us.
Yeah.
But they're really fun, and they do a really good job of covering their cases. They do lots of research. So
Yep. And so you guys will be hearing their promo. If you've been listening, you've already heard it in the middle of our show. I try to put it in where a normal ad break would go.
Once we get sponsored by everybody, by Rebel. Should we write to Rebel?
I think Rebel ought to get on the bandwagon here.
I'm going to write to them.
Okay. So that's this month that we've been partnering with Haunted or Hoax. Next month, we are partnering with another podcast called Haunted UK. And I haven't listened to a full episode. I listened to most of one episode.
I've only listened to one, and it was the disappearance of Paula Weldon, I think. And she has I texted Amy, and I was like, she shares my same birth date of October 19th. But she was born way before me. So it was good too. So it was very interesting. You know, it's so different when you have two hosts versus the one, because I think it's harder with one, to be honest, because you don't have that support. And this person did. It was a man. He did a fantastic job keeping me engaged. And I wasn't like, oh my God, just, you're so dry. And I'm not following. Like, he was really good. So
good. Yeah.
It's good.
And that'll be, it's a good show. And so you're going to be hearing their promo next month.
Yep.
But actually, wait, what's the date?
The 20th.
Oh, so this one will be out on the 25th.
Yeah.
So this one will still hear Haunted or Hoax. And then the next one we'll be hearing Haunted UK.
Haunted UK, yeah.
So I also wanted to mention that our last episode, the story that you, Megan, recapped. Remember, you were saying like you couldn't see the names on the screen and all that?
No.
Well, then I looked back too, and I couldn't either. It wasn't there. It didn't show. And then I started realizing. We both
tried different platforms too. Like, it wasn't just.
It's not even on Hulu.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not even on Hulu. Yeah. No, they only go through
We talked
episode
about that,
8. So, I looked at it again when I was editing the last episode, and I was going back to get sound clips. I was watching your episode, and every time, you know how normal episodes, when it goes to commercial, it has that dead files screen flash card or whatever you want to call it, title card, and it just says the dead files, and it does that whoosh. Well, in that episode, it doesn't do that. It has a skull, like a weird glowing skull that goes in and out. So something's goofy about that episode.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, oh, this is new.
Yeah, it's very bizarre, but anyway. So
don't like it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, we have to talk about what happened this week.
Oh my God.
It was very strange.
And by strange, we mean mind fucking blowing amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I almost shit my pants.
I know.
It's a cold brown.
I woke up on, was it, let's see.
It was
Friday morning?
Friday
morning. I woke up on Friday morning. Oh, yes, because our episode released on Friday morning at 6 a.m. So, and 6 a.m. is when I let the dogs out. So I let the dogs out and fed them, and then I went back to bed.
Now we know the answer to the question, who let the dogs out? It's Amy.
It's me. It's always me. And so I got back into bed and grabbed my phone like I always do. And I checked in to see how many downloads we had, because that's usually that would indicate how many subscribers we have. People who download it right away when it's first
Get the notification.
Yeah, they get the notification or they're set to automatically download. And so then it just automatically downloads right when it's released. So at like 6:08, I plugged it in. I, pulled it up and I can't remember exactly. I'm going to scroll back in our text because I can't remember exactly what it was, but that was at 11. Okay. Yes, this was Friday morning at 6:15. I sent Megan a screenshot because I thought that I was losing my mind. It said that we had 306 downloads in the last 24 hours. And there were already like 20 for the new episode. And when I went in and poked a little deeper, it was at 1 a.m. on Friday morning that these downloads started.
Really?
And then the episode wasn't released until 6. So it wasn't people coming.
They were catching up.
Yeah. Then by 11 o'clock, we had, we were talking last time, I think we were talking about how our next milestone was going to be 500 total downloads.
And we were like super stoked,
super excited. And I was like, I could go download it 20 times, but I'm not going to do that.
And we were hoping that it would be by this recording because it was last week. We were hoping.
Yep.
Did we reach that, Amy?
Well, yes. The short answer is yes.
I had a sketch drawn.
By 11 a.m. on Friday, we had 1,050. 1,050. Yeah.
Where were we at Friday or Thursday in downloads? Do you remember?
It was like 560 something.
Yeah.
So we went from that to 1,050 in just a few short
24 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like an hour later, it was at 1,200. And then yesterday morning, we were at 1,529. And I'm just going to run through it right now. I just refreshed it and we have 1,649.
Holy
downloads.
Shit. So we got 400 between yesterday and today?
Yes. Let me see.
You guys, math is not my strong suit.
Yeah, it's not mine either.
Come for me.
I'm going to look at the last 24 hours. The last 24 hours. Oh, it's slowing down. In the last 24 hours, we had 72.
Okay.
But
still, you guys,
it went nuts for a few days and I was just freaking out. We had, so Friday morning between Thursday morning and Friday morning, we had 402.
Oh my God.
And then between Friday morning and Saturday morning, we had 553 more.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Thanh you so much, everybody.
Yes. Whoever's doing that, thank you. And I have in my stats, it shows like a map of the US and you can pick other countries too, but it shows a map of the US and it looked like most of them were coming from a certain area. Like the circle was bigger. So I zoomed in and then it popped it out to more circles. So a few different cities, but most of them are coming from the state of Virginia.
Virginia, welcome on board.
Yeah.
You guys have Mothman. Which I was just listening to that episode by Strange and Unexplained, the Mothman.
Oh, really?
I think that's Virginia. I don't think it's West Virginia. I think it's Virginia. I'm going to Google it really quick to make sure so we don't piss off all of our new downloads.
Yeah. Well, I said to Greg, I'm like, I don't know anybody in Virginia. And he goes, maybe it's the FBI.
I mean, maybe.
So hopefully we haven't said anything to get us on a FBI list.
I hope not. Oh, it is West Virginia. So maybe make sure to cut that out.
Okay.
Don't want to piss off people.
We'll just say, it's
well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody who's downloading. We hope you are entertained by us. In the words of the Gladiator, are you not entertained? I mean, we find ourselves extremely entertaining, but we could be biased.
Your mileage may vary.
I mean, I tell my husband daily how fucking hilarious I am. And
does he agree?
No, he does not. He rolls his eyes and I say, well, you're not funny either. And that's marriage, you guys. That's marriage. It's just daily insulting each other back and forth until one of you dies.
That sounds about right. I've been married for 27 years or something like that. So that sounds about right.
When's your anniversary? I feel
it's in July.
July. Oh, that's
July
right.
10th.
Okay.
And let me
I
just
feel like I should know
because I
that.
can't do the math.
What year were you married?
1998. 24
24.
years.
24.
98? Is that right? Yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't there. You didn't invite me.
I didn't know you.
I know. I was in 8th grade. So I doubt my parents would have let me go to Scotland.
Yeah, probably not. I was going to say you probably wouldn't have made that trip to Scotland as an 8th grader.
As you know, however old you are in 8th grade. Was that 13?
Yeah, something like that. 8 plus 5. Again,
is that how that? Oh, that right. Yeah, 13.
Because you're 5. Usually you're 5 when
when you start. Oh my God, this is why you're the runner of the show, and I'm just along for the ride.
Oh no!
So thank you, everybody who's downloading us.
Everybody.
Wow,
we appreciate.
We are so grateful,
and tell your friends and tell them to download, and because we can always use more friends.
We can. I love friends.
There's one more thing I wanted to tell you, Megan. I haven't even told you this yet, but I noticed yesterday we had, that's another thing. We got a ton of Instagram followers this month.
What?
Like 20 or 30 Instagram followers. It's been crazy. Or this week, this week, I think we had like 15.
We're so popular.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but
I don't either. Clearly they've never met us. Yeah.
So we had one, I got a notification that this person was following us, and I clicked on her profile to see who she was.
Yeah.
See if I should follow her back. And that's another thing. I'll follow most people back unless their account looks like it's fake. Like they have like no picture and no posts. Then I don't. But if it looks like a real person or a real thing, and it's not private, I don't like to bother people who are private. So I don't follow those people back. But anyway, now I'm trying to find I can't find her in my list.
You're really building the suspense up today.
I know. Okay. So anyway, I don't remember her name, but I clicked on her picture and it said that she's a reality TV producer. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I went on doing other things, followed her. And then I went back today and I was like looking back, and I went back to her thing, and she did a post about the Dead Files, and she was on set at the Dead Files. So she is a producer.
Fuck up.
At the Dead Files. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That's exciting.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. So if we're going to get in trouble about anything that we've done, it's going to be soon
from her.
because the inside people know about us now. At least one does.
Crap. I don't think we'll get in trouble.
I don't.
I feel like we're pretty. We love the show. I mean,
I know. And
it's not like we're up here bashing them because we love you guys.
And we are, helping other people find the show, and getting there's a bunch of people that know me, and so they listen to the podcast, and now they want to watch the show, or they have watched the show because of listening to us.
Yes.
So, I think it's all good. I think that.
So I just popped on Instagram for a hot second, I don't do that very often. And Steve posted a picture. It's a couple. They're kind of older. I would say maybe 50s. And the man, they both have bright orange shirts on. And the man says, the back of his shirt, and they're holding hands. And the back of the man's shirt says, "Drink till you want me." And the woman's shirt says, "I can't drink that much."
Oh, funny.
Oh, Steve, you jokester.
Oh, Steve.
So, wow. This has been a big week, you guys.
It has. It's been pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I want to remind everybody to head over to our website and sign up for our newsletter, and then you can get news from us. And you can either do that on our website, or I will have a link in the show notes to just click straight to the form that you fill out to get in our circle, our little circle of friends.
And just a reminder, the newsletter is super short and sweet.
It's not going to be, it's just going to be a little links to stuff that we've talked about. It's not going to be,
it's not like,
it's not going to take a lot of your time
of everything we've ever talked about.
Yeah.
That's why we have a podcast.
That's right. Okay.
And saying Is there
anything else we need to go over?
I don't think so. I think that's it. I mean,
that's it.
the main thing, I'm still blown away by the Instagram, or not by that too,
Yeah.
but the amount of followers we've had, and the amount of downloads, I just can't. I'm like, oh, you guys are amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It's fun. Super fun. I got a little obsessive and I was like refreshing the page every 10 minutes, but
I didn't notice that.
The 47 screenshots I showed you every hour.
I'm kidding.
Now it's 1,500.
I'm kidding. I'm so kidding. I would be too if I had access to it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, should we dive into it?
Yeah. So I just want to one more time say that we're both covering the same episode. We both watched the same episode, and it's called "You Will Be Mine." It is
creepy.
Season 6, episode 8.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to throw a trigger warning in. This does deal with children being attacked. No children die, but there are small children who are attacked by spirits. So if that's something that you're not on board with, just, maybe skip this episode.
Yeah. We hate for you to skip this episode, but we understand that you have to. Yeah. And also, I had a couple other content warning things. There's talk of suicide, and there's fire death and water death.
Oh, good call.
Those things are freaky for you. And I know that's part of the reason I was glad that we randomly picked this one, because last week we talked about how your fear is water death and my fear is fire death.
Burning, yeah. and so look at this. And it was totally random.
It was totally random. She just picked a number out of a hat.
Yep.
Out of a hat in
out of my brain.
Yeah.
Out of my brain hat.
So I think the way we're going to try my brain
possible title episode right there. Brain hat.
Oh, funny. So I think the way we're going to try and do this, so that we're not talking over each other or
repeating the same thing.
Repeating too much. We're going to just go we're going to talk about it in chronological order. And I'm going to have Megan's going to be sort of presenting the parts where it's Steve's part of the investigation.
I'm going to be Steve.
And
no way, I could never be that cool. I could never be that cool as Steve. Cool. And you're gonna cover Amy's portion.
Yeah. And then I haven't decided what we'll do when we get to the reveal, so we'll just see what happens.
We'll just, you know what? Let's fly by the seat of our pants. Let's see where we're at when we get there.
Yeah.
And we'll just go from there. Yeah. So we're in Maryland. We're in North Beach, Maryland. And you know what when I was taking a nap earlier, because this is what I do when I take a nap. Why is there so many hauntings in the Northeast? Maryland, Maine, Boston,
New England.
I think
that's the oldest part of our country.
Yeah.
So
by white people. Yeah.
There's more people have lived and died there than, say,
Oregon,
Minnesota,
Oregon. Yeah, it was just, I was thinking about that yesterday when I was watching this. I'm like, God, a lot of these take place in the Northeast. So that was a good point that you had. So we see Steve driving, in his, I think it's a Caddy again.
I think it's almost always a Caddy.
And that's almost always a Caddy. And so Karen called and the main reason that she called them in is it's attacking her daughter, her youngest daughter. Mm-hmm. So she has 3 children, 3 daughters. And I texted Amy, I love their names. They're Laurel, who's 14, Aspen is 8, and Cedar is 6. And I love that they're all trees. Mm-hmm. It just made me, I just loved it. It put a little warm fuzzy in my heart and a smile on my face. Uh-huh. So Cedar is the one who's being really targeted. And she's the 6-year-old. And so that's why Karen called Steven and Amy, because she's just kind of at her wit's end. And, when they're talking, she says, most people think I'm crazy, but it's hard to do battle with an enemy you don't understand. And so I don't blame her. What do you do when you know something's attacking your child and you can't protect them? Because 1, you can't see it. 2, you don't know it. You don't know what it is. So I can't imagine going through that. So Steve asked, what things are happening. And she said things are moving around the house. They hear voices. They all have nightmares and they all see full apparitions. And things have also started to get physical, like they're getting touched and grabbed. And so they talked about the history of the house a little bit. The owner that they bought the house from had polio, and that actually comes up a little bit later in the history of the house. They bought it in 2007. So keep in mind, this happened in 2000. This was aired in 2016. So I'm assuming it was recorded, similar to that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And she said things didn't start happening until Cedar turned 3,
Mm-hmm.
which Cedar was probably born in 2010. So they had 6 years of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cedar turned 3, and she said she started to draw pictures. She said there's a man with brown eyes and brown skin that lives in her room.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom, Karen, has a book with over 40 drawings that Cedar has made, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just terrifying. And she said she's seen psychologists, psychiatrists. They say that she's a normal, 6-year-old who
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing mentally wrong with her.
Mm-hmm. I want to interject quick. I noticed, so when I was watching it and I was getting the screenshots of the sketches and stuff and her sketches, and I'll put this in the socials, but on the second one, there's the one picture of the man with the brown arms.
Yep.
I think she says, even though
Yep.
he's wearing a yellow sweater with long sleeves, I wasn't clear about that, but he has a brown face.
Yep.
And he lives in her closet.
Yep.
And then she's got another one that she says is covered in blood. The man that's covered in blood. And there's handwriting on the sketch. And it's, I assume, mom's handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I zoomed in and copied it down. So it says, it's, I believe it's Cedar talking to whoever wrote it down.
Mm-hmm.
I was brushing my teeth until my mom's drawer opened in her bathroom and something flew out of it. As soon as I turned around, this bloody man was there on mom's deck. He had a blue shirt with black pants and brown hair, all covered with blood. Oof. And then I also noted that mom is explaining how Cedar has become depressed, and she breaks down, and Tom and Steve gives her a hanky.
That was my next bullet point.
Oh, sorry.
Steve. I
thought you were already past that part.
and then I put a little heart next to it.
Yeah.
And she cries a lot, which I don't blame her. Mm-hmm. She said she feels isolated and she feels depressed. And she said their other 2 girls, the older girls, all 3 girls fight a lot. And the older 2 blame Cedar. Mm-hmm. This is happening because of you. This one, so just terribly heartbreaking. And
yeah.
And her husband works for the government, the Department of Defense, and he's gone all the time internationally traveling. So really it's just Karen. Her mother lives up the road from her. Thank God she's got that, her parents, but just her dealing with this, bless her. And so, and so then they cut to Amy. So now I'll let you kind of take over there.
So when Amy first got there, she's walking up to the house and she puts her hand on the door handle. You know how we talked about that psychometry, I think it's called, where they touch something and get something out of it. So I think that's what she's doing. And she says there's a lot of darkness here. Even if the sun is shining, it's not really shining.
Ooh,
and there's a lot of fighting and a lot of dead around. And then she sees people crying, and she said people would be fighting, and it was a huge problem for the family relationships. She said there's a male. He's all dark right now, and he's standing in the shadows, and he's angry. And then she says, yeah, this is bad. And then we go to Steve in the kitchen.
Yeah. So now we're in the kitchen with Steve. Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Okay. So Steve and Karen, so they're talking about experiences that they've had in the kitchen. And so Karen said that she had opened the cupboard and all the cups and bowls just fell out onto her. And there was, and Steve's opening the cupboards and like, they're latched? And he's like, they're level. He's like, I can't figure out what would have caused that. And I'm like, well, it was a ghost, Steve. That's what caused it. And then Laurel, her oldest daughter, Laurel, who's 14, and Karen were talking in the kitchen. And all of a sudden, Laurel screamed. And she said that somebody had touched her on her back and her lower back. And she was really freaked out. And Steve's like, is anybody else in the house with you that could have done it? And Karen's like, nope, it was just Laurel and me. So then they cut back to Amy.
Yep. And she says, well, this is creepy. I keep thinking it came out of the TV. And she describes a young girl with long brown hair, and she's wet. and she just crawled out of the TV. So my thought was, did Amy watch The Ring last night in the hotel room?
Yep.
Because that's exactly what it sounded like to me.
Or
The girl-
Poltergeist.
I'm kidding about her getting it from a movie. I know
I know.
it's really there. She said the girl has a connection with the living woman in the house, and the girl's head is really messed up. And she says this isn't good.
Yeah. I mean,
Now we're back to.
but
Steve.
granted, I don't think they'd call them in if it was good. Like they're not going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
these ghosts are friendly.
We love these ghosts.
Yeah. So now they're in the master bedroom. Karen and Steve are in the master bedroom, and they're talking about more experiences that they've had, that Karen's had. And so she said, she was woken up by a noise, looked at the door, and saw a giant black shadow coming at her from the door. She said it went straight to the bed, over the bed, and straight over top of her. Just kind of
like hovered over her.
Yep.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm like, no.
Mm-mm.
So she didn't sleep the rest of the night. And I'm like, nah, I wouldn't have slept ever again.
Life.
Yeah. And she said she was asleep, and this was a different occasion. And she said she felt hands grab like where your bangs are, like the middle of your forehead. And she said they grabbed her hair and just yanked her head up. And she said it was a very, very aggressive pull. And Steve is like, well, could you have been dreaming? And she's like, no, like she said it lifted her head off the pillow.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, how do you sleep at night? And she said she doesn't sleep most nights, which again, don't blame her. But then she said something that was really insightful and I thought was such a mother's thing to say. And she said she's really glad that she had that experience so she can understand what Cedar's going through.
Yep. I thought that was really sweet too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then we go back to Amy.
Yeah. So Amy says the dead girl feels like the living woman is her mother, and she wants her all to herself and will do anything in her power to make that happen. And Amy was feeling loss, loneliness, isolation, and extreme depression. And then she jumps back and goes, and she tells Matt that she just received a warning by way of being hit in the neck.
Yep.
By probably
the
that
girl,
girl.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
How she finds the strength to do these walks, I will never know. Like,
I know.
Just the will. I would walk in and I'd see that black negativity and I'd be like, okay, bye. Yeah.
Well, and
move.
I think I mentioned to you that I started watching that show on Netflix with Tyler Henry.
Yep.
The Medium.
And
I'd never heard of him before. I've never heard of him. I didn't know what he looked like or anything. And I started watching it and now I'm invested. I watch it every morning while I'm eating my breakfast. And he's just such a sweetie, but he gets that physical feeling too sometimes. And he talks about how it's draining and how, like, he went in, the one I watched today, he went in to do a reading with his family. And as soon as he got there, he was like coughing. And,
oh, wow.
And he was like, oh, sorry. He's like, that never happens to me. I'm so sorry. And then he said, when they started talking, he scribbles on a piece of paper and that helps him concentrate. And
sure.
Makes
like
all this
doodles
stuff.
Almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And he when he finally realized who one of the people was that was coming through, it was a man who had lung cancer.
Wow, that's so crazy.
I know.
I wonder if they as in the mediums can ever get the diseases that the ghosts that they feel through the ghosts. You know what I mean? Like, could they develop lung cancer?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
there have been Dead Files episodes where Amy says that the person, the entity, could give somebody cancer. So if why not giving it to a medium?
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the end of mine. No, I have that next Steve is talking to Jan.
Okay. Jan.
Mother.
Yep. So Jan, and so Steve and Jan are sitting outside in a really nice backyard. And they're talking about, what's going on with the house and specifically Cedar. And Jan says something's going on with her. She's changed. She's not the little girl she used to be. And so Jan said that she and her husband were babysitting the girls and they heard Cedar crying and screaming, "Stop it, leave me alone." And so they, obviously they go in and try to comfort her. And then there's a timestamp at 11:10ish. Jan heard a low voice say it's going to be all right. And she said that it sounded male, sounded, masculine. And so Steve is like, well, what do you, why did you call us? What do you hope to get? And she said she hopes to get peace among the girls. She said they don't get along, and Steve was like, well, they're sisters. They're going to fight. And she said, this is more than sibling rivalry. She said, I feel like they're in physical danger. And then we cut back to Amy.
Yeah, so she says that the young woman, like the one from the ring, is being creepy and malicious with the daughter because she's jealous and wants mommy. And while she's in there, she says the dead guy from downstairs just came in and said he wants this to stop. He says this is completely uncalled for and disgusting. And then I wasn't sure if he was
uncalled for.
I wasn't sure if he was talking about like the fact that Amy was there and doing a walk, or if he was talking about
what's happening with the spirit,
what the other ghost is doing. But he was talking about the young woman who's being so mean to the kids. He's trying to communicate with the kids and is trying to teach them how to stay away from the ghost. And he's requesting that God put a stop to this. And I think you already talked, right, about how Cedar was saying, leave me alone.
Yep.
That guy was in there.
Yep.
So, we haven't gotten to the part.
Well, I talked about Jan said that.
Yeah.
Jan,
yeah. Okay.
Grandma heard her say it, and then they ran in and tried to help her.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing I was going to mention is you haven't talked about it yet. So, okay.
Yeah. And maybe I don't. We don't know. Hopefully I do. So then we cut.
That's what we're here for.
Hashtag teamwork. So then we cut back to Steve and Cedar. And remember, Cedar's the 6-year-old the little girl who's the main recipient of all of the action. She so is cute. The cutest little girl. I just wanted to snuggle her.
I know.
So Steve was talking about her and he kept calling her honey and sweetheart. And I'm like, Steve, will you be my grandpa? So she had a dream last night that she went into her mom's room and she said there were dead people in there. She saw a man, a woman, and a little girl. And then she starts talking about the man with brown arms and brown skin who comes down from the ceiling. And then there's a timestamp. I forgot to put that one in.
That's okay. I got all the same ones that you mentioned.
Okay.
I already got them.
Okay. So then we're at 13:30-ish and he says, get out of here. This is not your room. This is my room. And then Cedar looked over in her room and there was a little girl and her name was Stacy. And Steve goes, well, how do you know? Like, did you name her that? And Cedar says, nope, she told me that's her name. And she said she hits her arms and she's told her to stop and she just keeps hitting her. And she said she died in a fire and she can't get her to stop hitting her. And she wants her to stop. And so then we cut back to Amy.
I just want to mention when she says that man is saying, get out of here. This is not your room. I think that he was actually not yelling at Cedar, but he was yelling at the other ghost.
The ghost.
She thinks that he's yelling at her. Yeah.
Which is understandable. I mean,
yeah, of course.
But
she doesn't know that's going on.
Yeah.
So let's see. I did do some digging to see if I could figure out who this Stacy was. And I'll get to that later. But okay, so now Amy is in Cedar's room and she says the living person in this room can see and hear the man and he's protecting the living, and the young woman is more visual here and more angry because she can't get close. But then I noted she can get close enough to hit Cedar in the arm. So
yeah, how much closer does she need to be?
Yeah. So I think unless it's not her doing that, but I don't know who else it would be. I don't think there are any other entity. Maybe. I don't know.
No, not really attacking them the way that she is.
Yeah. So that I had noted that so when the man is yelling, get out of here, he's talking to the ghost and not to Cedar. Okay. I'm done.
Oh, that. Are you done now?
Yeah, I'm done on that one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
Just waiting. So then we cut to Steve and Aspen. And Aspen is the middle child. She's 8. And so she also is having some issues or some activity in her room. So she sees a shadow man in her room and he sits by her dresser. And she said he looks like a grown up. He just sits there and looks at her and she feels like he's watching out for her. And then she's in bed and she saw a little girl by her ribbons. She's got a lot of awards for being 8. She's got like a whole bulletin of just ribbons that she's won for different items and things she's done. So she said she's got brown hair and she's got long brown hair, and she looks out the window and she's twirling her hair, and she said she's wet. And she said also when she's in her bed, she felt a thumb pressed down on the back of her neck, like really, really, really hard. And Steve was like, well, could it be the animals? And she said, no, it felt like a thumb.
And I went, and Steve, dogs don't have thumbs.
No, they don't have thumbs, Steve. They can't. That's how they can't open doors. They don't have that opposable thumb. So Steve asked, like, what do you want? What do you hope to get from this? And she said, I want to not be afraid of the dark. And I'm like, oh God, it's just, heartbreaking.
I pulled that sound clip where she says, oh, so I could feel like a normal girl and always don't be scared of the dark. She was a sweetie, cutie.
Yeah,
too.
She really was. They both were.
And I don't think they talked to the Laurel, did they?
They didn't talk to Laurel. So,
okay.
Which was unfortunate, but I get it.
Would have been nice to see what maybe she doesn't experience anything.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe she just didn't want to be on TV.
Say that too.
Yeah. So then we go to Amy and she says, oh, she's in one of the bedrooms and she goes, oh, we've got problems with the under the bed issue here. And the way she said it was like it's a thing. Like she's a plumber saying, you've got a clog in here.
You got this under the bed issue. You got to get fixed up.
A good old under the bed thing. So she said the woman slides down the sides of the bed and goes under, and then she grabs their feet and arms from under the bed.
I don't like it.
I know that. And she says she feels that the kids know that she's under the bed.
I would never sleep if I knew that. I
would be like in a ball in the very center of the bed.
Sitting up.
Yeah.
When I was little, my brother is 4 years older than me. And so he liked scary movies. I don't, for the record. I don't know if you've got that from me. I'm not a scary movie person. And so he was watching It. And I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8. Like I was little and I slept in a day bed. And so I was asleep, but I had woken up because my brother was getting ready for bed and, just kind of being antsy and whatever. And my parents were like, go to sleep. And I heard him and he goes, it's not my fault. I just watched a movie about a clown that eats kids. And I did not sleep that whole night for like the next week.
Just by him saying that?
Yes, because I kept picturing. So my day bed, it's like a little couch, and I kept picturing a clown just slowly coming up over the end of my bed to eat me.
Oh no.
So I get it, Laurel, or not Laurel. I get it, Aspen. Being afraid of the dark it's debilitating. Yeah. It really is. And it's irrational. Like, it's an irrational fear.
Well, is it though? If there's a ghost under the bed that's grabbing your feet?
Well, that's true. And you got to think evolutionary wise, the things in the dark used to be able to kill us. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on being afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
The point is I'm agreeing with Aspen and I'm feeling her pain.
Right. Well, we're all a little bit afraid of the unknown, at least.
That's true.
Yeah. Terrified of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's mine. The next thing I have is the ring shot.
Okay. So then it cuts to Steve. And so he went to, he found out who owned the house and sold it to Karen and her family. She had unfortunately passed away, but her cousin was still alive. So her name was, I think, Mary Sullivan. And so she had passed away, but he was interviewing her cousin. Yeah, John.
Yep.
John Polly. So he had spent some time at the house, and nobody had ever mentioned any experiences they'd had. He had never had any experiences out of the ordinary, like nothing that, would have indicated that there was anything living in the house. Mm-hmm. But we did get a little bit of history on the house, and also Mary. And Mary's story is pretty tragic. Mm-hmm. So the grandfather bought the property in 1919, and then Mary got it. Somehow I didn't quite catch how she had inherited it. But she was very outgoing. She was very pleasant, gorgeous too. Not that matters, but she was very pretty. Beautiful, 20s style hair and smile and beautiful eyes. Like, just, she was happy. So then when she was 20, she got engaged to a Navy sailor, and John had a picture of them. And then when she turned 21, she was diagnosed with polio. And the sailor that she was engaged to broke the engagement, and she never got married. She never, from the way John talked, she didn't really have any interest in romantic relationships after that.
Yep.
And then she moved out and died a couple of months after her 75th birthday, which was 2 years after she sold the house.
Mm-hmm.
She died of a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing a lot of heart attacks with spirits. And it made me wonder how many people have died from heart attacks that were, spirit or entity related.
Mm-hmm.
And we just don't know.
We just don't know. Yeah.
Because a heart attack's a very common thing to die of.
Yep.
So it just made me wonder.
Yep.
So then we cut back to Amy.
So then Amy sees an old woman who looks very alive. But then she says, damn, she's in some kind of pain. I tell you what. And then Matt asks her to describe her. And she says, she's grandma heavy with gray white hair.
Mm-hmm.
And she thinks that she may have seen the young girl when she was alive.
Really?
And grandma thinks she's evil, the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she did mention that the old woman is religious. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember John saying that after this man dumped her, she
Mm-hmm.
spent a lot of time at church. She kept busy
Mm-hmm.
with church stuff. And so so when she says she thinks she may have seen the young girl when she was alive,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if that meant she knew the person that ended up being the ghost, or
Mm-hmm.
did she mean when she lived here, she saw the ghost?
I took that to mean like she saw the spirit of the girl, but you could be right too. I mean, I don't know. It's a very vague
It is.
statement.
I'm going to pause for a second because your camera, whatever. Stop. There it goes. Okay, you're back.
Oh, okay.
Their voice was fine, so it'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, that's all I've got for that part.
Okay.
Amy.
So then we go to Steve and his research montage in the library, which I just love it. It's, it's like
Going through the file catalogs.
Yep. And the magazines and taking notes. And I'm like, oh, Steve. So he is going to meet with a genealogist, not a gynecologist, Tina Jones.
Yep.
And so that's when we learn about Maurice Doty, who bought the house as a vacation home in 1930. He was very wealthy and very successful, and he owned his own plumbing company. On October 16th of 1932, there was a fire that started in his home. And what they think happened was it was a colder night. And so he turned on an oil stove, put the stove next to his bed. His sheets caught on fire and killed him. He died of, on the death certificate, it said cause of death was smoke inhalation, which we had talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when you die in a fire, it's because you die of smoke inhalation and not burning to death, which I don't know. I would assume smoke inhalation is slightly better, but not much, I would think.
Yeah.
So his sister became the executor of his estate. He didn't really have any spouses or children, but then this woman came out of the woodwork and claimed to be his wife. And so she sued the estate, stating that she was entitled to all of his property and his wealth because she was his wife. But she didn't have any proof. So his sister was maintained the property and was, had the property. Steve raised a good point. And sorry, Steve questioned, because it was listed as an accidental death, but Steve questioned it, putting a stove like that so close to your bed, not smart. And so, kind of wondering, was he, did he just do that in a moment of, just I'm really fucking cold and I just want to be warm? Or was there something more sinister going on?
Well, and when what Tina Jones said was that when the firemen broke down the door, they found him on the floor with the key to the door in his hand.
Yep.
And
I think I mentioned that later, but I think,
Sorry.
I thought about it, but I do. But yeah, it was just in the reveal. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. And that's like, it doesn't make sense that just accidentally.
And I think Tina said something like, he's a contractor. He would know not to put a stove that close to your bed.
And that's what Steve said too.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He built shit. Like, he knew how things worked and what was flammable, aka sheets.
Yeah. Yep. So then we go to Amy, and she
rebel because I sucked down the first one.
I finished what I poured, but we'll take a pour break here. Pour the rest of mine in there. There we go. Okay, so Amy sees a man who protects the living. He was an architect or a builder of some sort. He died in his 40s or 50s. Maurice was 49. She thinks he got himself into a bad situation. Matt asks for clarification, and she says he kind of feels like he was murdered. But then she thinks he's lying and that he might have killed himself. And then she says maybe he was wrongfully murdered. And I'm thinking, is there a rightfully murdered?
I know. Like, how do you...
I wasn't sure what she meant by that.
I would think, maybe like a negligent homicide where somebody like left the stove on and it caused
too
him
close
to die.
Your bed.
Yeah, that would be the only thing that I would think of, like a wrongfully murder would be like some sort of negligent homicide.
Yeah.
If you're a lawyer and you're listening, please let us know.
So I did some digging. I spent almost all of today, being the few hours I was up before we started recording, and almost all day yesterday. And I found some stuff that I want to talk about, and we can record it right now, but I'm going to cut it from the episode, and then we'll have it as a Patreon exclusive.
Perfect.
So I dug around on this story, and Maurice did not make the papers very often. He was not in the newspapers much. On October 6th, 1917, he was in a car accident. He hit a little girl, but she wasn't hurt, and he drove her home.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He appeared just a few times in the section of the paper where they list real estate transactions or permits.
Yep.
And nothing major. His sister Mary did list him as a builder for her home. She built 2 homes on Alabama Avenue. I can't remember what the address was. And 2 homes side by side. I believe that they both lived, or they each lived in one, and she had him listed as the builder. And then I found the article saying that he died, and it called him a bachelor, which I think back in those days meant gay, because he was 49,
and not married.
He would have been, even if he was gay, he probably would have been married. But anyway, so then there's another article calling for anyone who feels they have a right to his estate to speak up, and that you have to file your papers or whatever by a certain date.
They didn't say that.
So I know. So I think
that's probably where she
got the idea. Okay. So I couldn't find, I was trying to find the story about this woman. So I used, this is from newspapers.com.
Yep.
I found an article in 1933 that this woman named M. Adelaide Doherty, she claimed to be his wife and said they had lived together for 3 years in that house before he died. The article also states that Maurice's sister, Mary Agnes Doherty, was ordering Adelaide to leave the home. She was trying to get her evicted.
So she lived there with him?
Yeah. She says she did.
Okay.
And she was in the house at this time, which was like a month after the death.
It's crazy because in the reveal, they mentioned that. And I was very confused because I did not get from the history part that there was anybody else living there.
Yeah. And and that's the thing too. And I remember when he was talking to Tina Jones, and she said, I don't think they ever questioned her. And I couldn't find anything else about her. So it did not make the papers. If she was
Yeah.
questioned, it did not make the papers.
Yep. Tina said that. And I was like,
Yeah.
great police work back then.
Yep. So it does show in the newspaper article, it does show Adelaide's address as the same as Maurice's, where he died. 647 I Street Southeast. And although his death certificate says 647 I Street West, something that I can't read. But what I've learned since using the newspaper to investigate for my other podcast, that papers are sloppy. A lot of times I get stuff wrong a lot. So like they said,
I as in the letter or I as in eyeball?
Well, it's I as the letter, but on the death certificate, they wrote EYE in parentheses behind it. So
in case you wondered how to pronounce it.
In case you want to make sure it wasn't an L or something.
True.
So I paused on the screen when they were showing the death certificate. And so I grabbed some fun facts from that.
Ooh, I love a good fun fact.
So yeah, it has the address of the property, which I said is 647 I Street. But I Googled that address because I wanted to see if I could see the house. And it's not there. There's no such address. So we're not giving away the address of the people who live there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it doesn't exist there. And I couldn't find it on the map. I did a little looking into this North Beach area, and it's really cute. It's a really cute town. And the houses are not that expensive.
Really?
They're like in the 400 range for being right on the ocean.
Yeah. For being and on a little bay area.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
and I told Greg that, and he said, well, it is Hurricane Central. And I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
which comes up later in my segment.
What does?
A hurricane.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Like in Golden Girls, when Sophia goes, there's a hurricane a coming. And Dorothy goes, a coming?
Coming. So it does show that his occupation was a plumber, not a builder. But he was born in Washington, D.C. His father is Michael Doherty, and his birthplace is Ireland. And his mother is Mary A. Sullivan.
Like
same name as the other owner of the house.
Yeah, Mary Sullivan.
Yep. But Mary Sullivan,
maybe.
Mary Sullivan was the owner of the house. She was born in 1934. So she was born 2 years after this fire. So she's not Maurice's mother.
But could she be like maybe a cousin or something?
Yeah, yeah.
But I know Sullivan's a very common Irish name. So,
well, as it turns out, Mary A. Sullivan is a very common name because I had a hell of a time trying to track these ladies down. So it does say, and I'll get back to that because there's something interesting about that. So the cause of death is suffocation by fire smoke, accidental. And then in smaller lettering that maybe even is different handwriting, it says 1, clothing caught fire from something I can't read, and then says died instantly. Number 2 says I think it says he, it might say she, but that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
He was found dead when firemen broke into his, and then there's a word I can't read. It's too long to be house, but it does look like it starts with an H. And none of these articles say anything about him having a key in his hand.
Habitat?
Yeah. What's the word?
Habit.
His. Oh my God. Having a brain fart. I don't know.
His humble
I'll think of it
abode.
at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. So I did
interesting.
I tried to do a timeline because I wanted to figure out. Here's where I'm confused. John Pauley's grandfather. So it could be Mary's grandfather as well. If you're cousins, you can have the same grandparents, right? Because your parents are brother and
sister. Your
sister.
parents are siblings. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So their grandfather bought the house in 1919. The Sullivans lived there, and Mary lived there. Mary Sullivan lived there up until 2007. So how did this Doherty guy how come he was living there in 1932? So I was trying to figure out if these families are connected, if they're really the same family.
Yeah.
I actually started drawing out the family tree. You're not going to be able to see it, but on my Rocket book, I was drawing out the family tree. So I found Mary Sullivan's obituary. And okay, so do you remember the name of the lady who claimed to be Maurice's wife?
No, something. Mary.
Her name was M. Adelaide Doherty. Mary Sullivan, the current lady.
Yep.
Her middle name is Adelaide. She's Mary Adelaide Sullivan. And the other woman who was M. Adelaide Doherty, I think I saw something else that said her name was Mary too. So they were both Mary Adelaide. I think it's strange that Mary, current Mary, contemporary Mary, whatever you want to call her,
2007 Mary.
Yeah, 2007 Mary would be named after a person who tried to steal the estate of somebody who lived in that house.
Okay, so
I mean, Adelaide doesn't seem like it's that common of a name.
How? Okay, 2007
and she was born 2 years after the fire.
So she was born in 1932.
No, she was born in 1934.
Well, if she died in 2007. Oh, no. You're right. Okay.
So I looked back and I found that Mary's parents are William J. Sullivan and Bertha Pauley. And that's how John comes into
Pauley.
it. Yeah, yep. John.
Yep.
And so that's, they're siblings. Bertha is a sibling of John's dad.
Yes.
And then I went up one more and found that William J. Sullivan is a junior. His father's William J. Sullivan the first. His wife is Mildred Hook. So then I went over to the Dohertys and I'm trying to figure out how these two families are connected. Yeah. Because Maurice Doherty's mother is Mary A. Sullivan and Michael Doherty. So there's got to be a connection. If they were all living in the same house, their all names are Mary A. Sullivan or Mary A. Doherty.
Or
got to be
William.
related, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but I still can't figure out why.
But
why wasn't Mary living in? Well, no, Mary wasn't born yet. Why weren't the Sullivans living in that house, and why did Doherty live there? Well,
and I don't know a ton, but from what I know, Irish families, especially back then, were very close knit, and didn't a lot of people tend to live in the same house. Yeah. So maybe they all live there, but Maurice was the only one whose name was on the deed, or who was claiming that address as his, but it was just the family used it.
Yeah, it could have been. I mean, he bought it as a vacation home, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they say he bought it as a vacation home? So he wasn't there all the time, but how did it start out being part of the Sullivans? And then it belonged to them, and then it belonged to
in 1932, it belonged to Doherty, and then it somehow came back to the Sullivans.
Yeah. I don't know. But
my brain hurts now.
I know. So okay. Told the house to Karen. Okay. So she died. Mary Sullivan died June 2nd, 2009. She was 75. And her obituary said she was survived by her devoted friend, Shirley A. Whittington.
So she was probably of the homosexual brand.
Yes.
Good for her.
Yeah. Good for her.
Live your life.
So that was, and I tried to search for M. Adelaide Doherty to see what her story was, see if she tried scamming anybody else. I couldn't find her, but she probably would have used a different name because she probably made up this name just so that she looked like she was in the family. Yeah,
she probably did some research. Yep.
I did see that there was an M. Adelaide Doherty who was in a car accident that made the papers in December of 1950, but I'm actually not even sure if that's her.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to put in for the patrons. So
okay, that was a ride and a half.
And I did find more about the thing you're going to talk about next. I found out a little bit about that too, but I'll just put that in here because it's not much.
Yeah. Okay. So then we cut to Steve and a maritime historian, Dr. Bill Kogar. Kogar? Kogar.
I think.
So they talked about a ship that was used to haul cargo. So they live in kind of like a little bay estuary type area. Like it's right on a water.
It's a
right
Chesapeake Bay area.
Oh, is it? Oh, huh. This is why I'm not a geography.
I didn't figure that right away either. It wasn't until I started looking and looking at real estate and dreaming about living there and all that I figured that out.
If you do, I get to come visit you.
Of course.
So in 1954, John Mackland bought this ship and converted this spooner. What do you call it? What do you call it?
I think it's schooner. I would just call it a cargo boat.
Yeah, I couldn't.
I think it's schooner.
So they converted it into a cruising ship.
Yep.
However, this guy, John, had little to no maritime experience. Really should not have been doing what he was doing. So he bought the ship for a business. He wanted to take tourists and people who live there kind of up and down the bay for, a little relaxing outing on the water, which sounds like a dream to me. So he spent some money repairing the ship, but not what he should have. He said this bill said the work was sloppy. It was cheap work. And he said it really was not seaworthy. It should not have been doing what it was doing. On Monday, August 8th, 1954, 23 passengers and a crew of 4 set sail to kind of go through this little bay area on this little excursion. Friday, August 12th, 1954, Hurricane Connie hits. Winds over 60 miles an hour and waves 8 to 12 feet tall, which for this area and the bay that they were in was really big. This wasn't, this was not like you're in the middle of the ocean and there's an 8-foot wave and you're like, that's fucking nothing. This was a big wave. John tried to drop anchor by the client's house, by Karen's house. He was like, shit, we need to get off of the water. This is not good. By the time he did that, though, it was too late. The ship capsized and it was torn to pieces by the hurricane. Passengers were, leaving, trying to swim, trying to hang on to driftwood, anything debris to survive this hurricane. Horrific. Yeah, it sounds dreadful. 14 people died in this out of the 23 passengers and 27. So 14 out of the 27 people died. And John was saying, Bill was saying that bodies were just floating to shore, washing up on shore from this horrific shipwreck. The captain had a really good lawyer, though. He said he was only found guilty on 4 counts of negligence and he was given probation and never served any time, which that's tricky because part of me is like, well, his boss was John. Like if John tells him to go out, what's he supposed to do? But
no, the captain is John. It's the same guy.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, well, just never mind then.
Yeah. I thought that too, because I kept thinking, I didn't realize that the guy this John Mecklin, who, fucked everything up, that he was actually on the boat.
Okay.
And
because when Bill was talking, he kept calling the captain. And so in my mind, that made me think that they were different people.
I thought that too. But then when I started looking it up and looking up, trying to figure out, I found some articles about this boat wreck. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to find out if the little girl that the kids see, the wet little girl from the TV, I thought maybe she was somebody who died in the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what I was looking for was a list of the passengers who died. And there wasn't anything like that, not like a list. There would just be like an article that would say 2 more bodies were found. Or whatever. And I did find an article that said that there was a whole family on the boat, husband, wife, 2 children, boy and a girl. All of their bodies were found except for the little girl. But her name was not Stacy. It was Hillary Seal Nevins. And she was 9 years old.
Well, I mean, they did talk, Amy's talked about the dead appearing the way they want to. So maybe she changed her name.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, maybe she wanted to be a Stacy.
Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. So that may or may not be that little girl, but
horrific.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. It was awful.
Yeah.
I imagine. Yuck.
So then they go to the sketch. Oh no, sorry, they go back to Amy one more time.
Yeah. So Amy is, I can't remember what part of the house she's in right now, but she sees a hairy man running around like an ape, dragging his knuckles on the ground. And she kind of laughs about it, like, what? And she says he might have been a regular guy at one point, but he's just trying to be intimidating.
Uh-huh.
And I have no idea who that is unless it's that captain.
Well, she brings him up later in the reveal.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
She does mention that there's something about a crash, like a boat accident that happened a long time ago. And
God, how does she do that?
She hears people yelling. Oh yeah, it is him, because she says the boat accident happened a long time ago with this guy, and she hears people yelling. He was in charge of a boat that sank. Okay, now we're at the sketches.
And for the record, the sketch artist is a lefty.
Oh, that's right. You texted me that. I didn't notice.
Yep. Little draw on his left hand. Okay, so then now we're at the reveal. And it's Karen and Jan, her mother. And so Amy starts talking. You know, Steve gives his background spiel on what's going on, and you know, it's the kids. And then Amy starts talking about what she found.
And first thing she talks about is the negativity that she noted and said it's causing all this fighting. And she talks about the male in the kitchen and that he's a building construction guy, and that he says he's been murdered, but she isn't sure she believes him. She later saw him elsewhere and said he's going out of his way to protect people. And then Steve brings up Maurice Doherty and talks about how he died in the fire. And Steve also talks about how he thinks that that this woman who pretended to be his wife maybe
murdered
planned
him.
the whole thing.
Locked him in the door. And that's when I mentioned that they did find him on the floor with the key to the door in his hand. So
I mean, it's possible. It's just weird that okay, first of all, when they first talked about that fire, I assumed the whole house was decimated, that the whole house went down. So how could she have lived there afterwards? But she did, because his sister kicked her out.
And if she did kill him, she probably contained it to that one room. You know, by closing the door and barricading it or locking it or whatever she did.
There's a few different theories on what could be going on there, because my original thought was she's just a scam artist who saw the name in the paper and said, I'm going to change my name.
I'm going to get in on that.
He's rich and I'm going to pretend like I was his wife. And then everybody else is like, no, you weren't. He was not into girls. So, which I'm not saying he's gay. I'm just saying it was a possibility that he could have been, because he was a bachelor at 50. But not that means that much. But anyway,
it's back in those days, it kind of did, though.
It kind of did. Yeah. I mean, like I said,
we're not assuming, just
no,
going off of clues.
Yep. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? Oh, then Amy talks about the dead woman coming out of the TV, and she says what is concerning is what she's doing in Cedar's room. And she does say that the man is in the room trying to teach the children how to stay away from the creepy dead woman. He's not trying to scare them. He's trying to get them to listen. And the dead lady can't break through the barrier, so he's there as their protector. And Steve does clarify that Cedar interacts with this man, the one with the brown arms. And then I wondered, because when she said he had a brown face and brown arms, I thought that he was African American, that he was a black person. But this man who died in the fire was not. And so then I wondered if maybe he was just burned, and that's why he looked brown, because he was burned. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too.
Okay. Let's see. Karen tells Amy about how he yells at her and tries to push her out of the bed. And Amy said, interesting. But even though that sounds harsh, I think he's just trying to protect her. And then
I'm like, can you be a little gentler when you protect me? Don't shove me out of a bed.
Pushing her out of the bed because the lady was coming in. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. And then Jan tells the story about how Cedar was screaming and she went in to console her and then heard the man say everything's going to be all right.
And they talk about the sketches
she's drawn. About her sketches. Yeah. And Amy's just like, whoa, when she sees those sketches, you know, Peter's drawings. And then as Amy's looking at that, she just looks at the mom and goes, how many spirits? And the mom goes, like, how many has she seen? And she goes, yeah. And she says
100.
over 100. And Amy's like, oh, okay. And then the mom says it's every night.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when she drops the fact that Cedar is probably a physical medium and that her emotions can affect those around her.
Yep.
And if she's overly upset or whatever.
And then she said anyone living with her or any kind of physical medium will have experiences.
Yep. And let's see. Mom explains how Cedar can even get violent. Amy explains that it's very hard for Cedar to experience what she's seeing and that this is why her behavior is so erratic.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, Cedar's a little older than Amy was the first time she noticed or first time she realized something was going on. But I kept thinking, I hope Amy got to talk to Cedar after this and sit down with her and say like, you're like me and
you're not weird. You're not a freak. You're just special. You just have a gift.
Yeah. Whether you want it or not. So then Amy talks about Aspen's room and says the protector can't get through to Aspen. And so the dead lady has more power here. She gets under Aspen's bed and tries to grab her feet and Mom is horrified.
Yeah.
The protector is really angry and is asking God to put a stop to this. And then Karen talks about how Aspen sees the lady with the wet curly hair.
Yep.
And this is when Amy mentions that sketch.
Shit. I lost my fucking mind when I said I would say this is one of the scariest sketches she's done to me, at least.
Yeah, it is. It's all about that under the bed thing.
Yep. It's just, and the fact that it's like the thing or the shape of the woman under the bed doesn't have any features. It's just a black mass. I think that's what's the scariest is it doesn't have a face. It doesn't have a body. I mean, it does have a body, but it's all solid black. There's no clothes or anything. And it's petrifying because you see it laying next to the bed with an arm extended up onto the bed, touching this little girl on the bed.
Yeah.
And, Karen gasps out loud. And I'm like, I don't blame her.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Can you imagine?
No. And to know that that's what your kids are dealing with.
Every night.
Yeah.
Every night they're dealing with this.
Yeah.
And Steve is so funny. He's like, well, I got to show this to you, but you're not going to like it. And I'm like, Steve, nobody ever likes them.
Yeah.
And then he goes, what the hell does this woman want? Actually, I think he calls her a bitch.
Yes, I think he did. I think
he goes, what the hell does this bitch want? I'm like, oh, Steve. He's just so protective. He's so endearing.
I know. Let's see.
So then Amy said that basically this woman is jealous of the children. She wants Karen to be her mother. And so the dead woman wants Karen to kill herself.
So they can
be together for eternity. And so that's when Amy talks about when she went in the master bedroom, she said she felt a living woman was feeling lost, feeling very depressed. And she said that's this dead woman because she wants Karen to kill herself. So, oof. Oh, and she's the woman that attacked Amy. Because Amy was talking about how this dead woman attacked her, and she said she karate chopped her words, not mine. She said she karate chopped her in the neck.
Yep. As she was figuring it out, she said, is when she got the karate chop to the neck.
Yep. No thanks.
Yeah. So the suggestions are contact a Native American medicine person to do a cleansing and remove the dead. And then a Reiki master will come in and remove any attachments, negative energy, and cut cords that have formed with Cedar.
Yep. And then she was talking about Cedar needs to learn meditation techniques. She said this is very important as learning these techniques will dim her light and the dead won't be as drawn to her. And then she also said she needs a power object, an object that she feels will protect her and empower her. And it's small enough where she can carry it with her all the time. So not really like a 10-pound weight probably shouldn't be her power object. And then she talked about how every night she has to lock down her room. She has a power object and her mantra is, quote, leave me be. I'm too young to help. Go to another. You cannot be here. You cannot speak to me. And then
And
that's
you cannot jump me, and you must stay
Yes.
outside.
Thank you. Yep. And
Yeah, I love
so-
how they all seemed so relieved once they knew
Mhm.
that there was
and like Karen said, like, I know that there's a path
there's
now.
a path and we can
Yep.
follow it. Yep.
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 So that was a deep
Yeah, and then
one.
the update at the end says
Mhm.
Karen has brought in a shaman and a Reiki master, and the activity has decreased, and Cedar is improving.
Good. Yeah, I really hope Amy was able to meet with her, or at least, I'm sure Amy has some connections
Yeah.
within the medium world, and
Yeah.
she was able to set her up with somebody who can guide her. I mean, Amy, you and me were talking and about how I'm sure that Amy just sees herself in this little girl. And,
Yeah.
I don't know if Amy had a lot of guidance.
I don't think she did when she was little. I don't think it was until she was older in her
Well, and you got to
mid to
keep
late
in
teens.
mind, like, people didn't know what was going on back then. And you
Right.
didn't want to say it because then you'd be crazy and be
Right.
locked up.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
I'm really curious who that
Mhm.
who that dead woman was. If she
Mhm.
was
Yeah, they never
if she was a little
on the
girl,
boat. Yep.
or because sometimes she calls her a little girl and sometimes she calls her a
She called her
woman.
dead woman. Yeah.
And there could be two different people too. I mean, the person
Mhm.
that Cedar sees that she calls Stacy, she
Yep.
says she died in a fire.
Yep.
Well, then there's the
Well,
other
why is she
woman
wet
that's
then?
wet. So I think it might be two different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I looked up, and a shaman can be a female as well.
Oh, nice.
A shaman and a medicine person are the same, I guess.
Okay.
At least according to the Wikipedia I read.
Okay.
So if
Wikipedia's
anybody
the
knows
best.
different, let us
Please
know.
let us know. We're not
Yep.
trying to do this on purpose.
Right. I'm just
We're
going with
learning.
what I learned.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up because I can hear
Okay.
my son getting a little antsy. So,
All right.
all right.
Sounds
I'll
good.
talk to you later. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Activity Continues podcast. We really appreciate you giving us your ears for a bit. Please reach out if you have a suggestion for which episode of the Dead Files we should cover next, or if you have a spooky story you'd like us to share on the show. We can be reached at theactivitycontinues@gmail.com or through our website or any of our socials. Links are all in the description of the show. Please feel free to drop us a note and say hi. And join us next time when the activity continues. The Activity Continues is produced by me, Amy, at Collected Sounds Media, and is part of the independent Collected Sounds podcast network. We are also proud members of the Boo Pod network of super cool podcasts.
Nailed it.